Evening, everybody. We're back with another Evermore. I've got one of the banners on, mate. What am I doing here?
You have, Chris.
How
weird.
Doing already. Got schoolboy. You can tell.
You've never done this before.
In the background, started out. Yes, we're back with another Evermore. You can see we're all chirpy because the first time I think ever since we've been doing this show, we've actually got something positive to talk about. I'm joined once again by the returning blue tick man, that is Dan Wales, and the Lynch man himself, James Lynch. How are you, lads?
I'm doing all right, Chris. How are you?
Very well, very well. How are you, mate?
I'm very good, James. I'm just waiting for James's mood lighting to change, by the way, if anyone's watching. We're talking off there. If you hear any Barry White kicking in, James is setting the mood. So
don't get me started. Don't get me started.
He's been having
my first James, my last, and my everything.
Mate, I love it. I love a bit of the love song.
Good to see you back anyway, Dan, after your week off. Yeah, good to see you back.
I'm glad to be back. I'm very glad to be back.
We missed you. We missed you that last week, man.
We did, mate. We did. We were aptly joined by Captain America, Adam. So he did a sterling job, mate.
You've got nicknames for all of us, haven't you, Chris? You've got nicknames for every single one of us now.
I do, mate. I do. I'd hate to hear the nicknames you lads have for me, by the way. But we'll not worry about that until later on.
I will keep that one quiet, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. But listen, as I said, guys, we've got some great news to kick off with. For once, we're talking about a game, and we're actually happy about it. You saw it in the VT intro there. Lovely John Joe Shelby celebration next to Kieran Trippier. We actually won a game of football, lads. Can you believe it? I forgot what it felt like. I did a post-match review, and I was in a bit of a daze because I didn't know what to say. I was just ready to launch it to say how shit we were and everything else. Dan, I'm coming to you first, Mr. Positive. How did you feel about that result, pal?
Oh, I was over the moon. I was sat at Gateshead covering that match, but I had the updates coming through my Twitter and my laptop at the same time as to how Newcastle were doing, just to keep tabs on it. And suddenly I saw like people saying Shelby, just people tweeting the word Shelby. I was like, what's happened here? So
Is he being sent off? Is he being sent off?
This is the thing. I wasn't sure what to expect. And then I see Chris Wolf tweeting Newcastle won enough, shall we forget? I was like, oh yes. I must admit, to be fair, there was only a couple of people in the press box, so I let out a little bit of a get in, even though nothing was happening in the Gateshead game at that point. To be fair, both teams Gateshead won as well. But yeah, no, over the moon, massive 3 points, really brings the whole relegation scrap a bit closer in terms of how many teams are involved in it now. You know, Everton much more involved in it now. Even Leeds could get dragged into it as well. Brentford as well. That win has changed the dynamic so much. So yeah, I was buzzing with it. Obviously, the Shelby free kick wasn't the best free kick I've ever seen Shelby take. Not the worst either, but you know, he got it on target and the keeper's cocked it up. So I'm going to take it.
Absolutely. What about yourself, James? How did you feel about it, mate?
Much better, wasn't it? I didn't think we'd get anything from this, and thankfully I was proven wrong. Look, going into the game, there only looked to be one winner, didn't there? I mean, we covered the preview last week. Leeds had just come off the back of that huge win at West Ham, and we had drawn against Watford and thrown that game away. But yeah, we managed to pull a rabbit out of the hat. For me, look, the performance, it didn't matter. We just had to get a win, and by all accounts, it was a fairly entertaining game. Probably not the prettiest, but I thought Cher had his best game for the club in a number of years. I thought he was man of the match. He was excellent. Trippier was brilliant as usual. What a signing he's turned out to be, by the way. Dubravka was outstanding. He kept us in the game. And look, I have been quick to criticise him on this show, but he played a blinder on Saturday. As you said, Dan, Shelby played well, very good second half. He was fortunate with the goal, shocking piece of goalkeeping, but you take it all day long. For me, what was interesting were the substitutions. I thought they completely changed the game. Manquillo was brilliant when he came on.
Well, most of them.
Yeah, they were all kind of forced, really. But Manquillo came on for Dummett, played at left back. He was asked to play in that unfamiliar role, left back role for him, but he was outstanding. He completely nullified Rafinha. Won us the free kick high up the pitch that we scored from. And to be honest with you, I thought Longstaff did very well also when he came on for Joe Linton. And again, Clark coming on for Lascelles had a really good last 20-minute spell. So overall, a really good team performance, which we needed. And the fact we managed to hang on for all 3 points for a change will have been a huge confidence boost for the players and manager. As you know, a few weeks ago, we might have drawn that game. So yeah, I'm really, really pleased.
Absolutely. Listen, it was massive to hang on to the game, as you rightly say. We're live on YouTube tonight, guys. Just don't forget to jump in the comments as Stu's done. Thumbs up. Definitely, Stu, we're all buzzing. It's great to have a bit of positive news to talk about. And as Dan says as well in the comments, we were due a bit of luck. We bloody well will, Dan, I'll tell you. But it's interesting because you look at the performances, you rightly say. I think overall the statistics were very similar in a way to the dark days under Bruce in terms of possession. We were absolutely pasted by Leeds. There were 67% versus 30 odd or something. But when you look at it, we dealt with it well. We absorbed the pressure well. Everybody defended well. I think Shelvey's defensive work was outstanding. He was winning headers. He was throwing himself into tackles. As you rightly say, James, when Joe Linton went off, it was a real worry. But Sean Longstaff had one of his better games. He looked very, very good. Dummett found it hard, struggled a bit. Thankfully, Rafinha didn't punish him. But yeah, Manquillo was absolutely superb when he come on. I think Manquillo was really unlucky not to start in this team. I know he'd been suspended. Potentially, Eddie Howe was just given, Dummett the kind of benefit of the doubt, so to speak. But Manquillo almost changed the game single-handedly when he come on because
I've got a soft spot for Manquillo. I think
he
never really puts a foot wrong, does he? He never does a lot wrong.
He's always like a 6 or a 7 out of 10, isn't he? He never does anything amazing, but he just never lets you down. But as you rightly say, James, he nullified their biggest threat. I mean, yes. I think I said in the review as well, it was so obvious in the first half that both sides were missing their main goal threat, us with Wilson and then with Bamford. I think if both of those guys had been on the pitch, potentially it could have been a different result. But yeah, it was a fantastic result for Newcastle. I think the kind of the dedication, the discipline was really, really important as well. And Eddie Howe's got to be happy that the work he's put on the training pitch has obviously come off in the game. We're going to come on to some individual players in a second, one in particular. But one thing that I couldn't get around, lads, and to get your opinion on this, starting with you, Dan, what the fuck is the referee and VAR thinking not giving that ASM penalty, man? Like, especially with the Liverpool game later on that weekend, what are they thinking about, mate? Looking at that, it's ridiculous, isn't it?
Chris, I've given up trying to second guess it now.
Yeah,
it's at a stage where now literally the calls are so inconsistent every week that you don't know what constitutes a foul and what doesn't anymore because it just I don't know what to make of it. I don't know why it wasn't given when it's so clear cut and when there's so much clear contact there, and he's going down and he takes his legs away.
If that's not a clear obvious error, then what is?
I don't know what else to say about this. I don't know what else to say about it. It is so clear cut and so much a penalty that it's laughable, to be honest. It really is.
I was just going to say, James, bringing you in there. Do you think the fact that he was tossing a wobbler and throwing his arms up and winding on the referee, do you think that played a part in the fact that ASM didn't get the shout with that, or what?
Well, probably, yes. Subconsciously, that probably gave the referee an easier decision to make. But that's irrelevant, A player's history shouldn't dictate whether or not a decision is clear and obvious or not. And we're going about the Man City game, the home game. I know we did lose that, but another obvious penalty that wasn't given on Ryan Fraser, I think it was with the goalkeeper. I think
worse than the Jota one, than the Jota one as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think this one this weekend was actually more obvious than the Man City one, and that's saying something.
And it's frightening. Was the most frightening that's been ever not given as well. So it's, as I say, the levels of inconsistency to go from that to not be given, the Fraser one to not be given, and the Jota one to be given.
But thankfully, lads, we didn't end up needing it because we did win. But it could have been a different story if they'd equalised in the last few minutes.
It could have helped the goal difference as well, which is worth a point come the end of the season.
True.
No, you're right. I mean, not to dwell too much on it, but did you know the referee that didn't give the Fraser penalty was the same referee that gave the Jota penalty?
Yeah, Craig Paulson.
That is unbelievable. But Stu's dragging us away here from this horrible subject. We'll be whining for 45 minutes about VAR probably.
Yes, we will.
Stu said he's not a stats guy, but I'm sure Longstaff's pressing figures are very good, which is important in the modern game. Obviously, he's not a top quality player, though. That's a good shout, Stu. I've got a soft spot for Sean Longstaff. I think he really works hard. You saw the celebration when Shelvey scored. He's one of us, isn't he, Sean Longstaff? He's a Geordie. You know what I mean? So he was just as elated as we were, the fact that we scored that goal. But yeah, we've talked about it, James, before, haven't we, about the future of the Longstaffs. I think we did it, was it last week or the week before? And I just think that, Sean Longstaff will do a job probably where we are now, won't he? If we go down, he might be more important. But if we stay up, do you think his days are numbered at the club?
It's a difficult one with Sean, isn't it? Because he's far too inconsistent right now. And if he had a game like he had on Saturday every single week, we wouldn't be looking to sign a central midfielder. And, Bruno Guimaraes, I think we're going to come to talk a little bit about him later.
Well done.
You're taking the lead on that, James. You're taking the lead on that, mate, because I can't pronounce it as slick as that part. Well done.
But if he comes into the team, he immediately goes in ahead of Sean Longstaff. And it's a simple fact. The fact that he was valued at £1 million by Everton shows you how much he has regressed as a player. Just to put in, sorry to interrupt, Jim. How much was he valued by Man United when they wanted to sign him at the end of? Oh, wow. I mean, something like 30, 40, 50 million. Yeah, exactly. So he's nowhere near the player he was a few seasons ago. However, in terms of a squad player, he can come in and do a job for you occasionally when there are injuries like that. But I certainly don't think if we're going to play him every single game for the remainder of the season, we're not going to be in games, because the midfield is the biggest area where we're lacking at the moment.
Absolutely. Just a one on Chris Woods, actually, guys. Dan, just to start with you on this. I mean, you're ever the optimist. I was maybe a bit harsh on Chris Wood. I think it was because my muscle memory was just to moan about how shit we are, and I always went back to that kind of knee-jerk reaction. But Chris Wood won a lot of aerial duels, and he got a lot of praise for that. I think he won the highest stats, 15 or something in the game. But there was times in that game I felt that game passed him by with a pace. I felt that. And potentially because better players are whipping the ball in, like Trippier and guys like that, the ball didn't seem to be sticking to him. His touch looked rusty. He was losing possession and stuff like that. I think on Sean Longstaff's chance, doesn't he? He doesn't quite get there. He fluffs it and he has to pull it back in and cut inside. And Sean's got to score that really. But what was your view on Chris Wood, Dan, from what you saw?
Certainly,
I might be a bit harsh.
Yeah, I mean, certainly as you say there, the stats in terms of aerial ability were actually really good, and he bettered everyone else on the pitch in terms of that.
Yeah,
that bit, but. Yeah, I can see what you mean. I mean, certainly his touch against Watford wasn't brilliant either, because I remember, I think it was his chest down that led to their goal, if I remember rightly.
He lost the ball, didn't he? Came deep and he lost possession, I think.
Yes.
It led to the goal. I mean, to be fair, the goals are a defensive nightmare.
It stemmed from that. It's hard to say whether he's still settling in. Obviously, it's a new team, obviously, and having Burnley have such a set way of playing, so maybe it's a bit different. He's coming into here trying to get used to it, maybe. Who knows? I'm still very willing to give him time, because he has a decent enough goal scoring record in the Premier League, and hopefully he will come good. And to be fair, there was another chance as well, I think, in the Leeds game where he was about to strike it. I think I watched the highlights of Match of the Day, and the ball was literally just pipped away from it, literally as he was about to follow through. And I think if he connects with that, it goes in. Obviously it's all if, buts and maybes, but
story of our season, Dan.
It's an interesting one on Chris Wood, guys. Just to quickly butt in, apologies, but he's not actually with the team over these next 2 weeks because he's international duty. He's gone out, obviously New Zealand with the team the country he plays for. I think they've got a couple of friendlies. I think they're playing Uzbekistan and somebody else. But as far as I'm aware, that the coach of New Zealand was quite surprised that he actually has joined up with the New Zealand team, since he's just literally been at Newcastle 5 minutes. So whether or not that's going to, I don't know how that's going to go down with the management or Eddie Howe, what have you, to lose a player like that over the 2 week period, where you'd think in Saudi Arabia they'd want to be working on set pieces, drills, or whatever, and without your centre forward, they're going to be a little bit lacking on that department.
That's interesting. I mean, I think we'll get into transfer talk. I mean, I think if somebody like Zapata comes in, he's probably going to be riding the bench anyway, to be fair. Do you know what I mean? But we'll wait and see kind of what happens in the coming weeks, because it's the transfer window is just an absolute, soap opera in itself, really. Anyway, guys, but just moving on to individual players. There was a return of a certain player that I was really happy with. Joe Willock. I think when we talked about it in the Leeds preview with Phil, who is gutted, by the way, James, about the result, and he actually got it spot on, did Phil? He said this is a Leeds type of game that they'll blow, and he was right.
He did.
Phil. Hi, Phil. Right. Sorry, mate. We'll have you back on. He was great, Phil. But yeah. So the return of Joe Willock. I mean, I've got some stats here about Joe Willock. Joe Willock had a funny game, James, didn't he? He was in and out. I think he won something like 9 duels on the ground. He won, an aerial duel. He got a couple of tackles in. He got stuck in. He ran all over the place. But there was parts of the game, and he was getting a little. Twitter was kind of up and down with Willock. He was getting shit 1 minute, and the next minute they're going, "Oh God, he's grafting so hard," and everything else. What was your overall view of Joe Willock? I mean, I was happy to see him back. Did you think he showed some of the signs of the Joe Willock that we know?
Well, I wasn't surprised to see him in the team. I'll be honest. When I saw the team sheet at 2:00, I saw Longstaff had been dropped. Ironically, Longstaff then came on for Joe Linton, as we've talked about earlier. So I was pleased to see him getting the game. But I thought he had a decent game. I didn't think he was brilliant by all accounts, but he was much better from what we have seen of him from him this season, which has been nothing. He's been woeful this season. I said to you this earlier before we came on. I think Lascelles and Willock have been our two most disappointing players this season, especially with Willock, considering how good he can be.
Yeah.
He hasn't particularly looked interested in certain games as well. I remember that the Cambridge game when he came on, he just didn't want to know. But look, anyway, forgetting about that, let's go back to Saturday. I can't really put my finger on why he had a better game. He was played in the usual three that Howe likes to play. So it wasn't like he was given a more advanced role as we used to see him get under Bruce when he was performing at his best. Personally, I think we need to change the formation to get the best out of him. But Howe is adamant in playing this 4-3-3 week in, week out, which doesn't really suit Willock's style of play. If I'm his manager, I'm just telling him to get forward as much as he can because he's completely ineffective in his own half. Saying that, he did have two clear-cut chances on Saturday and he should have scored, but that is a man who's lacking confidence and a man who is out of form. But yeah, look, on the whole, he was much, much better on Saturday, but I want to see more from him, Chris.
Yeah. What do you think, Dan? Same for you, mate?
I completely agree with James. Obviously, he did have those chances, and one of them in particular, he should have put away. But it was better, and I've been a big critic of his so far this season. He hasn't been good enough, as James says. Has looked disinterested, has been slow, lethargic, is not willing essentially. But from what I've seen of the highlights of Saturday's game, it was better. But as James says quite rightly as well, we can't just give that off the one performance. It has to be consistent and happen a few more times before. I'm just reading Stu's comment. Sorry.
Yeah, that's a great comment, Stu. Yeah, is he gone all Jack Grealish, Stu? Is he getting a calf? So that must be what it is, mate.
Chris, one for you on this. Where do you think Willock's best position is?
Oh, it's a funny one for me. I'm always a big fan of a diamond formation. In a team.
Diamonds are forever.
Diamonds are forever. We were singing before we came on, weren't we? But yeah, I'm a big fan of that. And I suppose you can't really play that with Shelby because I say defensively he's not disciplined enough, but he did a great shift against Leeds. But I would love to see Joe Willock as like a centre attacking midfielder behind a front two. But we don't have a front two, is the thing.
Yeah.
So whether you play him off a main striker as almost like a free role.
Wilson comes back, though. Do you think you could play Wilson alongside Wood?
Possibly, but I think that before the end of the window, and I'll be shocked if we don't get a better striker in, say as a Zapata, for example, if Wilson's out, Zapata's the main striker. When Wilson comes back, it might be Zapata and Wilson in a two. Do you know what I mean? And then what you do you play ASM behind them in that centre attacking midfield role and give him a free role? But I think with Willock, if Willock had started the season the way he ended last season, he would just be unbelievable. You wouldn't be able to drop him. But at the minute, he does look like a passenger on that side. Him and Longstaff, I think if we sign the kind of players we're talking about signing, he will be dropped. As Lee's saying there in the comments, Willock wasn't great last season, goals aside. He's a decent player, but I don't think he's the answer for us. If we bring in Ali or Lingard, he'll be the first player we drop. It's a good shout, that, Lee. I think
that's my mate. That's my mate, Lee. Chris, that's my pal.
Oh, is it, Lee? Thanks for joining, buddy. Thanks for watching, mate. Mark's in there. The Longstaff pressing stats. Stu, you asked for stats. The stat man's come and got you. Longstaff pressing stats. Similar players in the top 5 European leagues. We actually told Mark as an inside joke to stop doing player stats because the last 3 he's done, we haven't signed them. So Mark feels like a bit of a voodoo doctor at the minute. But yeah, so I think with Joe Willock, it's a tricky one. I'd play him as a central attacking midfielder, getting in the box and scoring goals, but I don't think we have the players to actually do that, which is the biggest worry. The transfer window is massive, so we're going to come on to that in a minute, guys. But moving on to the next subject, moving away from the Leeds game. Just before we move on to the next subject, actually, just to touch on the Everton game briefly. It seems like 100 million years away, doesn't it, really? But a lot can change before we play Everton after the break at St James's Park. So just coming to you on this one first, Dan, because I'm going to get straight into James for the next section. He's got plenty to say. So coming to you first in this one, Dan, there's a lot of time between now and that fixture. Everton could end up with a new manager. We could end up with 3 or 4 new players, potentially. What are your feelings predominantly for the Everton game? Are you positive after that result, or are you still a bit pensive?
No, I'm positive. I mean, I think if we go and win that game, certainly it drags Everton right into the mix massively. They're massively looking over their shoulders. Whether they'll get a new manager bounce, who knows? I mean, obviously, it depends who they appoint as well and how well that works out. I think, was it today that a potential new manager did an interview with Sky Sports?
Well, for Everton?
Yeah.
No, I never saw you. You're the one with the black book of journalists, mate. You tell me. And James.
I saw something on Twitter today, which I found a bit odd, and I saw, I think, what was it, Henry Winter commenting about it on Twitter? I can't remember. I'll have to have
text your mate Keith Downey, Dan. He'll tell you. He'll tell you what's going on.
I think it's Vitor Pereira, possibly.
That's him.
Are you referring to?
Yeah. Supposedly,
I know Frank Lampard's been linked, hasn't he? To be fair, Lampard's been linked as well. Which he gets linked to every job. But I mean, Everton obviously got beat off Villa. I think the only thing they got on target was our bottle of pop that they hit the Villa players with. To be brutally honest with you, but are you worried about Everton, though, mate? If Big Dub comes into town, back to the tune, are you worried?
They're playing with like no fluidity, no coherence. I know, obviously, they've just.
Dan's mic's gone. Oh, you're back, mate. Sorry, I lost you there.
Oh, sorry. Did the sound go? I do apologise.
It might be my headphones, mate. Sorry.
No, I was just saying, at the moment they're playing with no fluidity, no coherence within the team. I mean, obviously, Rafa's not been able to get them going, and then has since been sacked, and obviously nothing really changed with the way they played against Villa at the weekend. So, if we're on a win bounce, and say they haven't brought anyone in, and they've still got Ferguson in there, you'd like to think we could go and beat them. Because
just to touch on that one quickly, they are still in the FA Cup, so they do have a fixture next weekend. They play, I think it's Brentford at home. So I mean, the three of us will be keeping a keen eye on that game in terms of what kind of performance, in terms of what kind of team they put out.
They're into it as well, just as
they
much
are.
as
they are.
It'd be interesting to see what sides they play. They've played weekend sides. So do you fancy James? Do you think we'll do them, mate? Or?
I think it all depends on if we can get 2 or 3 more signings in. Personally, I think 2 or 3 more players through the door before then we win that game. I'm fairly certain, because they're not playing very well, Everton, at the moment. I'll be honest with you, I don't rate Duncan Ferguson. He's a great number 2, fantastic number 2. Let me just clarify that.
Hear, James. You might hear he's mental, man. Don't say that too loud. His son plays for us, He might watch this, mate. Sorry, Dunk. I love you, Dunk. I rate you, mate.
I love him as a player, but
it was him.
As a manager, I think he's even come out and said, I don't have the experience to take the job on full time. And, immediately you're kind of going on the back foot a little bit with something like that. I'm not saying you're not going to have the confidence to do a job, but he did get a bounce out with him, didn't he, last time?
Last time he did,
yeah. So fair enough. But I think that squad now is in such disarray after what Rafa has.
It's such an unhappy club at the moment, isn't it? There's board protests.
The players have regressed so much in the space of time that Rafa has been there, and he's got a lot of work to do to get them out of that kind of rut that they're in now. So best time to play them. Don't get me wrong, I would have loved it if they'd kept Rafa another few more weeks, because I think we would have beaten them convincingly.
It would have been like Rafa to win that game, though, mate, just to piss us off. Probably it would have been like Rafa to do that, I imagine.
Yeah. But no, I'll go for a 2-1 win, mate.
I'd say about the same as well.
Yeah, I'm going for 2-1 win as well, and let's hope. We've got a full house, lads. Positive. What a difference a win makes.
But, it really does.
Well, we're not in the FA Cup, surprisingly, as we all know, because we're shite. We got done by Cambridge. But James had mentioned it already. I know he's licking his chops at getting stuck into this topic. I can see him there getting all revved up. So, as we know, the players are over.
I'm just going to sit here and sit back and listen.
Just get the popcorn, Dan. But the players are off sunning themselves on a Saudi trip. I saw pictures of the Longstaff boys. I hope they got a factor 50 on. They don't look built for the sun, those lads. Much like me, they'd probably be bloody lobsters by the time.
You kind of talk.
I was going to say it's exactly like me, mate. Yeah, I let Matty a bottle of Factor 50 and said, "Go on, Matty." But yeah, so just looking at the trip itself, it has obviously gauged a little bit of attention. Is the trip controversial, James, or not? You've got plenty to say on this subject matter. So over to you, Mr. Lynch.
Right, I have absolutely no problem with this at all. But look, as you two both know, I couldn't give a shit about politics. I never have. I never will. This is football we're talking about here. However, for whatever reason, there are still some people out there who are upset by this. And I just don't get it. I don't understand it. You've got to remember, this trip will have been agreed and planned way back in October when the takeover was completed. It's good PR with the Saudi Arabian people. It makes sense in that this is where the club's ownership is based. The higher-ups will probably want to meet the players. They'll probably want to meet the staff. And look, they're not going out there for a jolly and a piss up. You know, this is not Mike Ashley's Newcastle we're talking about now. This is Prince Mohammed bin Salman's Newcastle we're talking about now. And look, there are very clear rules on what you can and can't do in this country. So I'm certain that this will be strictly professional, and we will be working hard in the training facilities, the sports science, and all that kind of thing, and all the rest. The facilities over there are absolutely first class. So top of the range, the high end, they're much better than what we have right now. So the players, I think, will appreciate the change to their routine and will enjoy, you know, some sunshine as well, apart from the long stuff as you mentioned, Chris. But look, for me though, going back to the original thing about Twitter and the press and all the rest, this is where it just gets stupid. And this is a country that has hosted sporting events for many years now, Formula One, boxing, UFC, golf, and nobody says a word. But when Newcastle United go out there for a warm weather training camp, it's front page news, or people just people complaining for complaining's sake. And certain people, especially online with agendas, they're just desperate to cause trouble and kick up a storm over absolutely nothing. It's a short break for warm weather training. That's all it is. And at the end of the day, look, we should consider ourselves fortunate that we've been bought by these guys. And I just don't see a point in the press and fans making a big deal out of this. I just find it laughable, really. That's my take on the whole thing.
Yeah. Well said, mate. Mark Stewart in the comments there is Ollie Holt that has an issue with the trip. It's interesting, Mark.
He's certainly been very...
Yeah, Oliver Holt's very vocal, but as everybody remembers, Oliver Holt waxed lyrically about going over at the Anthony Joshua fight and getting treated with hospitality and everything else while he was over there. So he's got a short memory and he's very hypocritical. He actually put a tweet out about his Neymar signing, I think, to one of Luke Edwards' tweet. And all the Newcastle fans basically just said, "You sad, petty little man," which is what I said. But I'm with you in a way, James, on this. I understand people's views in Saudi Arabia, but people's views in Saudi Arabia and people's views in Newcastle United obviously are two very different things. But you know, when Manchester United go across to America or whatever it is, where their owners reside,
we've been to Portugal before.
Exactly, yeah.
Real Madrid just spent a few weeks in Saudi Arabia as well. Nobody said a word about that.
Well, it's different in Madrid, isn't it? But I think the point I'm getting is it's where our owners reside. So we're obviously going to go over, as you rightly said, you know, meet the kind of top men, you know, in Saudi and the PIF, and, you know, the royal family, all that kind of stuff. There'll be a big deal made of it. The World Cup is in Qatar this year.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the World Cup itself is the biggest brown envelope you've ever seen in your life. The fact that it's in Qatar, but you know that's a different story for another podcast. But I think that we are there for people to take shots at. You know, Manchester City had this as well when their takeover happened, but you know, social media wasn't as prevalent when Manchester City were bought. You know, so they didn't get as much of the disdain as we're getting. Where, you know, Karen in our house eating a bag of Doritos, licks her fingers and goes, "Oh, you know. Oh, bloody hell, evil Newcastle United going to Saudi Arabia." She probably doesn't give a rat's ass. She couldn't name a Newcastle
bloody
player.
Karen, eh?
Bloody Karen. But yeah, I see the point. You know, but I mean, listen, everybody's got their right to feel the way they feel about that country and their human rights record. The human rights record is abysmal. There's no doubt about that, right? But we are football fans, and Newcastle United are a football team. Eddie Howe's a football manager. He's not going to go over there and change the way they do things. If you want to challenge anybody, challenge the politicians, tweet Boris Johnson and everybody else, and ask them why they're not doing anything about the human rights in Saudi Arabia. But Dan, what's your view on it, mate? You know, you're normally Mr. Positive and Mr. Calm. Do you feel the same way about this, mate, or do you see where people are having an issue with it? Yeah, I do in a way. Do you see it, mate?
Yeah, I mean, I can see both sides to it, but I think you just need to get past that. It's just a training camp.
Exactly, mate. That's all it is.
Yeah, it's nothing. It's not like they're going over and like promoting the Saudi regime, which, as you say, it does have an abhorrent human rights record, and none of us challenge that. It's just going over, like, people go on holiday there every year. Like, these are the people who own our club, so whether people like it or not, there's going to be some links between us and them. And
well, the thing is, they own so many businesses, Dan. They own Twitter, the very platform these people are kicking off.
I'm
Saudi Arabia have investment in Twitter.
I'm going to boycott Disney. Going to boycott Uber. And that's just three. I know they're three big ones, but that's just another couple.
Exactly. Mate. I think it's just
we are not in any way going there to promote the Saudi regime at all.
No.
We're going there to get a bit fitter in the nice warm weather.
Well, we had it back in October, and we've had it again now. And to be honest with you, Chris, I'm just bored of the whole thing, to be honest.
Yeah.
Sick of it now. Bored of it.
No, I agree, James. You're right.
Yeah, I think you're right, lads. I think you're right. Yeah, it's one of. I think we're always going to have it, to be honest with you. And when success comes, we'll get it even more because there'll be a lot of bitterness.
Of course we will.
Yeah, a lot of bitterness going on, and it's a nice segue about bitterness moving into the Toon transfer talk because it's been a little bit of a hectic.
I'm looking forward to this pronunciation again, James. I want you to do it again.
Well, I'm gonna let James get into that in a second, but I want to start off on the bum notes of Jesse Lingard in particular and Diego Carlos. So I've got a couple of things to say about this because I think it's been a bit of a disgrace, really. Now, I got a bit of flack on Twitter for it because, in a way, I'm happy that the new owners aren't taking shit off people like Sevilla, changing the price twice and thrice and 4 times and everything else, right? I like the fact that they're doing that, right? But my point was, I think we are paying the price for not having a senior football person in that position that these clubs would never try to pull that on. They're only trying to pull it because Amanda Staveley, and Masood and whoever else is doing it don't have the experience in the game, and they're thinking, oh, we'll get one over on these lot. They've got loads of money and they don't know what they're doing. And I think that's the reason Sevilla are pulling.
Was that Masood, Chris?
Oh, sorry. What was I just pronounced his name?
Vidal Sassoon.
No, I said Masood, mate. I said Masood, didn't I? It's my Geordie accent, mate. Go quite big.
It's Merdad, isn't it?
Merdad. Sorry, mate. I'm terribly sorry to Merdad. Sorry, I know I said Masood. I got completely confused there. Sorry, guys. But sorry, Mr. Staveley. I'll say that then, Mr. Staveley. That might be safer. Okay. Yeah, but I do think these clubs are taking the piss a little bit out of them, because there's not a senior football guy there. What's your take on that, James? Do you think I've got a point there? I was getting a bit of flack for that, but.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely nail on the head, mate. Look, it's this window has been a roller coaster, hasn't it? Start to finish, it's really been ramping up this last week. To me, it feels like the players want to come, but the clubs they don't want to sell or they're not happy with the fee, and it's becoming a big problem for us now. The money is there, we all know that. But it looks like the owners, as you rightly say, Chris, they don't want to get fleeced and taken advantage of. And meeting in the middle somewhere is proving to be really difficult. I still believe come Monday, we will probably get 2 over the line on deadline day because we will get to a point where the clubs will have tried it on and tried it on and tried it on. And then there will be somewhere in the middle that will be met. And I do believe someone like Jesse Lingard will be done on deadline day.
All right, that's a good claim, mate. That's a big claim. And I've read some of the stuff about what Manchester United have been doing with Lingard.
To be honest with you, mate. Sorry, to be honest, I said last week on the show I couldn't see it happening, so I was probably wrong. It's really ramped up this last week. Look with him. I believe that I think he wants to come. I genuinely believe he wants to come. I think he's good friends with Trippier, isn't he? He's not getting played for Man U. I think he's on what, 100 grand a week there. Why, if you're Man U, why do you want to keep him on the books for another 4 or 5 months and pay him 100 grand a week when he could be playing football elsewhere? It makes no sense. He's not getting in the team at Man U, is he? He's not even getting in the cup games. So no, just let him go.
His contract is going to be up in the summer, so they're going to have to let him go for nothing then anyway. Why are they trying to fleece out so much money now? I don't get it.
I think they're bitter. I think they're bitter that they're going to lose a player who's 30 million quid in value at least for nothing. Because they've let it get to where it's got to. That's not our
They're
problem.
Talking about a loan fee as well. Is it 12 million or something? This is a player will be with us for 4 months and they want 12 million.
And to be fair, I respect Newcastle for pulling out at that stage because I think that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, Dan.
Absolutely. Regardless of how good the player, that is just Man United trying to absolutely pull a fast one over us. And I'm glad they've pulled out actually.
Yeah, I mean, I think James is right. Manchester United might come back towards the end because Lingard might kick up some serious thing. But Stu said in the comments there, it's an important point is that we pay transfer fees up front at one payment. I think some of these clubs might come back to the table. That's exactly what we've just been saying, Stu, 100%. We've got a comment there from CFC Florida that Sevilla pulled the same routine on Chelsea last summer and they walked away. Now, the Sevilla one's really funny. I mean, the Lingard one's disappointing, but I saw a great analogy about the Sevilla one with Carlos. So we said, how much do you want? And they said that much. And we went, there you go. And they went, actually, no, it's that much. And then we went, there you go. And they went, actually, no, it's that much. And we went, there you go. And then they went again. It's like going for a pint of lager and saying, how much is the pint? And the guy says £3.20. And you give him, they go, actually, no, it's £4. Oh, no, sorry, it's £4.50. It's £5. You'd walk out of the pub and tell them to get fucked, wouldn't you? So it's pretty much what we've done.
Well, you go somewhere else, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you go somewhere else, And I mean, the Carlos thing's an interesting one because we've all been watching YouTube clips of him and all that, and you nailed Messi and all this stuff, and but none of us really know how good he is. Yes, Sevilla have got a great defensive record, but I mean, some of the other names that have been linked have got more Premier League experience.
One thing I will say, sorry, I want to mention, sorry, Chris, I apologise. One thing I want to mention on the Lingard one, finally.
Yeah,
I will say about Man U, they have just done a similar deal with Sevilla for Martial. Right. So in terms of a loan move, so they are prepared to do it. And I do think with this, all is not lost yet. So I genuinely think this will happen.
James is this week's optimist. Blimey.
James, I've never known it, Dan. I've never known it. James has been optimistic. But that's it on Lingard. Yeah, switching back to centre-halves quickly. So the other names that have been linked are a bit more kind of traditional centre-halves. We've got Nat Phillips from Liverpool, who I quite like as a player, to be honest with you. I think he's quite a big, strong player. He's not too bad on the ball, but he's more of a kind of a blood and guts type centre-half. And then I think there's Dan Burn from Brighton, who, again, is a bit more of a traditional. Yeah. A bit more traditional centre-half. Well, I'll come to you first on that, Dan. Yeah. Obviously, losing Carlos is disappointing, but what about the boys that have been linked there? Start with Dan Burn.
I'm going to start with Dan Burn just because, I mean, firstly, he supports Newcastle. He's from Blythe.
Yeah, he's a Newcastle fan, isn't he? Yeah, exactly.
The only reason I say is because today I've been speaking to my Brighton supporting friend about him, who's also a sort of journalist like myself. And he says the way Graham Potter has Dan Burn, he's more of actually at the moment a left back or a left wing back despite his height.
Really?
Wow. Tallest left back probably the world's ever seen.
And that's the way Potter's been playing him. But
so it's 6'8" or something, isn't he?
6'7",
This is just going off what Charlie's had to say to me. He says if it was in a back four, he's unsure how well he would do, which is a bit concerning for me. But if it was, say, a back five, left centre half of the back five, he could do quite well in that position as well. So it's more the sort of either left back or left centre half. But
he's not first choice at Brighton, is he? I think he's playing at the moment because Shane Duffy's injured.
Yeah, but to be fair, I've been told good things about him from my mate. So he says that he's coming, he's done really well, and of course, as well, he'd come up here and he'd get the club straight away.
Yeah,
You'd know what it means.
Of course he would. Yeah, I mean that's a massive asset, isn't it?
That's what Gates said, but we'll gloss over that.
Yeah, that's a huge asset, isn't it? And Tarkovsky's another one, James. He's been brought back out of the woodwork, but I just can't see Burnley selling a striker and a centre half to us, mate, in a relegation fight.
Absolutely no chance Burnley will let Deitch go unless he's got a release clause that nobody knows about. I don't think that's been mentioned. I'd imagine his release clause would probably be near the 50 million mark, though, if I'm honest with you, because
is he worth that? Is he worth 50 million quid?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think he's worth that. I think, as he mentioned before, Carlos or Botman. I still think Botman might happen, and I am being very optimistic tonight, but I'll tell you why. I think we might come in for a really improved offer for him. Again, it's going to be like the deadline day, the Monday. The thing about Lille, right, is they always hold out for as much money as possible. I mean, was it 78, 80 million they got for Pepe from Arsenal? And I think Arsenal originally, they absolutely, I mean, Arsenal originally came in with a 40 million bid. They were laughed away, but they did go 3 or 4 bids high. And eventually, I think he was either deadline or a couple of days before deadline day, they just gave them the money. We might be in a situation then where we might just say, do you know what? We'll take the gamble. We'll pay the money. If there's no other centre half. I mean, Dan Burn, look, if Dan Burn gets done, fine, Botman won't happen. But if for whatever reason Dan Burn doesn't come, I do think they'll go in for either Carlos or Botman on deadline day, and they'll just pay the money.
Well, your mate Lee's got the inside track on Dan Burn there, I think, mate. You might want to put a code to Lee. You might know the score there.
I'll give you a ring after this, mate.
Wow. It's going to be the blower. But going back to Stu's comment there, and it's a good point, Stuart, that, I mean, we totally lack pace at the back, and Carlos is the only one who can bring some pace, and he does look quick as well, to be fair. Do you know what I mean? So that's a shame that he won't go. I think we'll end up with some random centre back we've never heard of. It's probably a good shout, Lee, as well, to be fair. We'll end up with somebody completely obscure, but sometimes those players can really surprise you and do a really good job. Back in the day, we had Distan on loan did well, Boomsong did well for a time. Davies Ass did well. So sometimes these players can come out of nowhere and surprise you. But yeah, I mean, centre half's still a massively important area, and I think we need to concentrate on that. We don't know what the injuries are like with Dummett. When Dummett gets injured, he doesn't just get a little bit injured; he gets really injured.
So really bad for 1.5 games.
I know. I mean, he might be in intensive care or something, as far as we know, in Saudi Arabia, in a full body cast. Paul Dummett, I do love him, but he's made of bloody glass, isn't he? But
he's made of glass, yeah.
He is. He's a lovely lad, and he's a good lad. But he's made of fucking glass. But yeah. So centre half's a massive priority. So moving a little bit further up the pitch. Obviously, we mentioned about Lingard potentially falling away, which is disappointing. But there's been another name linked, and I don't really know what to feel about this. I've been a little bit worried about that. Just another good shout there from Stu. Lloyd Kelly has gone quiet. Yeah, you're right, mate. But I've been a bit worried about the links to Dele Alli. Now, Dele Alli is only 25 years old, right? And there's no question that lad has ability in there. He showed it at Spurs. At one point, he was arguably the best attacking midfielder England's ever seen since probably Steven Gerrard and Frank Lampard. But just coming to you on that one first, James, I don't think he has the fight, personally, Dele Alli, for a relegation scrap. He's got the quality, but would he put in a shift like we saw against Leeds at the weekend, mate?
Again, Chris, nail on the head. I don't think he'd offer anything in a relegation battle. He looks good in a good team, Dele Alli, and right now we aren't a good team. He's not the kind of player that would relish a challenge like that. I think someone like Lingard would genuinely, as proven at West Ham, because when he went to West Ham, they weren't as good as they are now, and he just stood out a mile in that team because he relished that challenge.
Brilliant at West Ham, to be fair. He changed my opinion of him completely when he went there. He really did.
Yeah, probably one of the best loan moves in the history of the Premier League, that Lingard to West Ham move, I would genuinely say. But in terms of Dele Alli, as far as I'm aware, he has been offered to us by Spurs. They just want to get rid of him. They want him off the wage bill. He doesn't get on well with Conte. He isn't in any of his future plans, surplus to requirements at the club, all things considered. I mean, I think he even fell out with Jose, didn't he, as well, at the end of his spell? And obviously, Nuno,
that's not unheard of, though, is it?
Didn't rate him. It is, and that worries me. He obviously falls out with managers a lot. I mean, don't get me wrong, Poch got the best out of him. Poch was one of the best man managers in the history of the Premier League. Would Eddie Howe get a lot out of him? Possibly, maybe. But this one does worry me. I think, to be honest with you, on current form, Jesse Lingard is probably on par with Willock. I mean, the two very similar players, used to be very good players at one point, but two very out of form players. I mean, would you really want to bring in a player that's virtually the same as Willock in a relegation fight? He's on a huge salary as well. He'll be on excess of 100,000. But, look, saying that, if we are in a position come Monday where nobody else is through the door, then I'd take him, because look, anything is an improvement over what we have right now. But I can't see Lingard happening. I can see Bruno Guimaraes, who I mentioned before, and we might come on to him.
Oh, James, I'm impressed again.
We're going to come on to him in a second, but that's a good shout by your mate Lee. Van der Beek, definitely, mate. I'd take him. I think he'd be superb.
Top player. I think Crystal Palace want Van der Beek at the moment, I think.
So Dan, just on Ali, obviously, and any other midfield choices, is Ali the right man for you, mate? Or would you be like us? Would you be concerned? That we're going after the wrong character. Free Donny Moore.
Free Donny.
I'm agreeing with what both of you said. Like as we've seen in the past, he's certainly got ability. This is a man who did really well for England at the World Cup 3 years ago, but then since then has not really had an impact for club or for country. He has regressed an awful lot, and he just doesn't. It is a bit like he seems like he doesn't care a little bit. He's not interested, which is it's the last thing you want when you're in a relegation fight, isn't it? It's the last thing you want when you're a footballer, regardless of where you are in the league, whether you're challenged from the top, even in the middle, or towards the bottom. Something tells me Eddie Howe could maybe get a tune out of him, but I don't think we have the time left this season to take that risk. Perhaps
too much of a gamble, mate. You're totally right, mate.
Stew's bang on the money there with that comment.
He is. Absolutely. I've just seen that comment, Dan. I don't know if you've seen that come in there. Yes, he's not a good trainer, mate. It's a great show. Yeah. It's a great show. So sorry, Dan, you were saying, mate.
Perhaps if we stay up this season and then we can have a fresh new slate to work with, then perhaps you could bring someone like him in, because then you could spend time with him over the summer.
Yeah,
drilling
get
into
him fit.
Exactly.
Understanding what you want out of them.
Because the quality is there, and we've seen the quality in the past with Tottenham and England. But right now, no, I have to say.
Yeah. See, for me personally, just before we get into James's unbelievable Brazilian pronunciation of these players,
no, it's Portuguese pronunciation.
He's He's a Brazil international. Come on, I've only made one mistake tonight. Back now, don't do me again.
Sorry, mate. I love you really, mate. You know that. I love you really.
How do I turn his camera off, Dan? So yeah, just as we're missing our Welsh wizard tonight, I'm gonna give the Welshman a shout for you, Di. We'll have him back next week, but I would rather have Aaron Ramsey personally than Dele Alli. I think Aaron Ramsey's got he's got the professionalism, he's got the leadership qualities. He's not too much of a big time Charlie, although he has been playing for obviously big teams. But I think if Ramsey came in, he would give 100% professionalism. I think the players would look up to him as a leader. I think he would drag people along with him, and I think he would be a much better signing than Dele Alli, and arguably Jesse Lingard too, as well, to be fair. And you're right, Stu, I am still holding out for James Ward-Prowse. My God, please, for God's sake, sign James Ward-Prowse. Free kicks alone, mate. But yeah, I think for me, I would much rather be looking at it, as I think as Stu said earlier on as well, good professionals, good trainers. Aaron Ramsey fits that bill. Dele Alli at the minute does not, and Jesse Lingard, I think, would be a good signing. But yeah, I think for me, Aaron Ramsey would be the one that I'd go after. But the word is, and I'm very skeptical about this, the word is we are apparently close to signing a Brazilian superstar whose name Dan and I cannot pronounce.
I can't pronounce it.
But Mr. Lynch is an expert at it. So over to you, Mr. Lynch. Who is this player? We are supposedly...
I can do the Bruno bit. I can do Bruno.
I can do the Bruno bit. That's an easy one. That's a tap in that, mate. Come on, James, over to you.
Bruno Guimaraes. That's how it is.
Listen to that Brazilian magic.
I've done my research, lads. Anyway, look about this. This one's gone full circle. Reports this morning saying the deal had been done tonight, this evening. Now it looks like it might be off. I mean, there's even other reports tonight saying he's going to Arsenal, and Arsenal are now going to pay the money for him. It's all over the place. If we somehow can get this done, this represents an absolutely brilliant piece of business, in my opinion. He's one of the best young midfielders in the world right now. Predominantly, he's a defensive midfielder, but he's also very, very creative. He already has quite a few assists this season for his midfield partner, Lucas Paqueta at Lyon. I really like him, and we are desperate for a midfielder right now, particularly one of his stature. And he would walk into this team, probably at the expense of Longstaff, I imagine, who we have talked about a lot tonight. But watching a lot of football, as you know, and I have seen bits and pieces of him this season, he kind of reminds me of like a better version of Cabaye. And that's high praise. Probably not as creative set piece wise as Cabaye, but in terms of his guile, his creativity, his awareness, his positional astuteness, he's a brilliant player. And as I say, if we could get this one done, then this would be better than Trippier for me.
If we do sign him, Dan, can you put a call to Keith Downey, because if Sky Sports are looking for commentators to pronounce the names perfectly, then James' Twitter handle is at the bottom of the page there. Drop him a DM on Twitter, and James can commentate. Get Gary Neville to take a seat, because James can smash those names out. But you know what? I saw the highlights of the lad. I can't profess to be watching any Ligue 1, but I was watching the highlights of him on YouTube. Obviously, we know everyone looks great on YouTube, but he did look phenomenal, James. I must admit, he had composure. He could put a tackle in, great vision, bit of skill, can go forward and get a goal, box-to-box midfielder, which I know Di was talking about in our slide rule pass chat. For you, Dan, as James says there, if we pull this lad out of the bag, which I'm very skeptical about, because I do think there's a lot of agents playing the arse here and trying to get the bigger clubs to come in for the players. If we can pull this lad out of the bag, mate, it's got to be, like James says, the best signing we've made yet, isn't it?
It's a marquee, isn't it? It has to be.
Got to be.
Yeah, although to be fair, I was drawn to the attention of why Lyon may have released a statement in which they did. Supposedly, Lyon, the way they're set up as a public company, have to do this until, and this is from like a accredited journalist, I think, of The Guardian, if I remember rightly, have to do this because of some legal. I'll tell you what, I'll try and find it, and they can't say it's true until the deal has actually been completely signed off. They didn't deny.
Well, that sounds more promising than anything, mate. If they're doing the very legalities of it, and stuff like that.
A similar statement was made about Ferland Mendy as well with Real Madrid,
and apparently Alexander Lacazette as well. They've done it before, and the players end up going. It's just they can't. I don't know. It's quite complicated, but I'm going to try and find it for you. talk monkey stuff.
Well, just while you say that, I'm going to answer your comments, Stu. Do you think Eddie Howe would take Loftus-Cheek? I don't think we've got enough plasters left after Dummett's injured, mate, to deal with Loftus-Cheek. He's another China doll as well, mate, to be fair. Cracking player, but he's perpetually injured, isn't he, to be honest with you. Yeah, Mark's just hit the nail on the head as well, what you said as well, James. Did the same thing with Mendy. So just why Dan's looking for that statement, as you say, James, this lad is a big profile player. But my worry is in the skepticism and cynicism that I've developed in this transfer window is I do think there's a lot of agents just trying to coax out bigger clubs here. And I know that's a view shared by a lot of Newcastle fans on Twitter. Are you confident this is going to happen, or do you feel a bit of cynicism as well, mate?
I'm not 100% confident it will happen, but as I say, the closer we get to deadline day, the more hope you retain, because there's no way we're not going to sign anybody else. I cannot see that happening. I mean, how many days left? 5 days. I'm absolutely 100%, and you can clip this because the next show we do next Wednesday, the window will be shut. We 100% will definitely get either one or two, possibly three at a stretch, but certainly one or two. We will bring them in between now. We have to. It's a simple,
seems to be the
that we have to.
Seems to be the general term, isn't it, with the journalists as well?
Whether or not it's Guy Marias, whether or not it's Lingard, whether or not it's Dan Burn, Dele Alli, Zapata, who we've mentioned on the show before. It could even be somebody else who's not even been mentioned that could come out the woodwork tomorrow. But I'm certain anyone watching out there, we will get a couple more over the line.
Yeah, Dan, have you found that statement? Have you made?
Yeah, so it comes from a Daily Mirror journalist called David Maddock, and it actually comes from 3 years ago. But it was retweeted today because it sort of is the same business. Apparently, it's the same how it works, and it reads: Leon obliged as a publicly listed company to ensure no false information is disseminated until contracts are signed, especially relating to potential fees, and their denial of false information relates to, suggestions of the deals being agreed, etc., etc. Apparently, Leon must make any announcement of significant business to the stock exchange first.
Okay, so that should break then early if that deal's been done. So that'll give us more of an insight
as
to what happens.
As I say, it's happened before, and that's perhaps why they've done it in the past before, and perhaps why they've done it.
Yeah, interesting.
Well,
yeah, well, we'll keep an eye out for that, definitely. But yeah, there's no doubt if it comes off, Jesus, that's going to be a hell of a sign. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of hate thrown Newcastle's way on Twitter as well when it happens. But just to wrap up, lads, on the last sign, and you mentioned it there, James, Zapata. I mean, there's talk about a loan fee. I think the first offer was rebuffed by Atlanta. We're talking again. He seems to be a name that doesn't go away. Again, he's got pace, he's strong, he's quality. I think he would give us a different dynamic to Wood. Something we're missing with Fraser being out, and then something that could play alongside Fraser. Beg your pardon, Wilson. When Wilson comes back. So what's your take on Zapata, mate? Can you see it coming off?
Is that me or Dan?
I was going to say.
Sorry to you, James. Sorry,
mate. Apologies. Well, look,
I've had a long day at work if I'm losing the plot here. Sorry, I've been staring at a computer all day. So that's probably what it is.
I can't, and I reiterate this before. One of these will get done, whether or not it's Zapata, whether or not it's Bruno, whoever it is. But I think on Zapata, the whole goalpost would change really with targets with the Wilson injury, and I think obviously Wood coming in has given us a bit of a different dynamic. Personally, I don't think he's really going to make much of an impact, but maybe it has only been 2 games, but maybe the owners might think, do you know what, we're going to need another centre forward because this guy isn't going to score the 10 goals we probably need to keep her up. So again, on Zapata, all of the right things are being said about him, and he wants out as he's not getting played. He was regularly getting played a couple of seasons ago. I know he played, everyone keeps mentioning this Man United game, the Champions League, but
yeah, he did well against them there. Yeah,
he isn't number one choice. Lewis Muriel is their number one centre forward, and Zapata he just sits on the bench now, and he is an international. He wants to play football, the Colombian international. He wants to come over here as much as I can read into. I can see this happening. Why not? I am being positive tonight, guys. I'm really trying.
I love it. You
are, mate. You are.
I'm gonna say yes to everybody.
Cloud 9.
Everybody.
We're going to sign everybody, yeah. James. James on Cloud. What about you, James? About Dan. God, sorry, lads. I'm losing the plot here. Dan. The blue tick man. You went off for 1 week and I forgot all about you. What do you think about Zapata, mate? Is he going to come off, or are you a bit skeptical about it?
I mean, I won't lie. I haven't read, say, as much about this one as I had perhaps the other signings, but
Yeah.
I'm just going to go with what James has said on this. I'm going to take the optimism, I'm going to take the positivity, and just hope that something comes through. Of course, Wilson will return eventually. So we've got him to come back, and hopefully he can stay for a little bit longer. But yeah,
he's on the plane, wasn't he, to Saudi? I did see Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, yes, he had some
board, which is a
coaches.
good sign.
Yes, he had some coaches, but the fact that he's gone there suggests that he is improving. Obviously, the estimate was
that is a good sign.
The estimate was 6 to 8 weeks or something like that. So hopefully, you could maybe think start of March time, perhaps, or maybe end of February.
Yeah,
I will say probably as a final comment on this, I think there's more chance of a centre half or a centre mid coming in than a striker.
I would agree with that. Yes,
I think that's priority. To be fair, I think after splashing the
money
on
because
Wood,
we have brought a centre.
We have.
Yeah, we have brought a centre.
Not a particularly good one, but we still have.
We have brought one in.
I do think Burnley have had our pants down for sure.
Oh, yeah.
For 25 million quid, yes. I don't think the last time you ever ripped off for a bit of wood, it was probably an IKEA, to be fair, mate. But no, he's all right. He's all right as wood. Give him a chance. We'll see how he does against Everton. But that's pretty much us done, lads. So again, everybody, thank you so much for joining us in the comments. If you like this kind of thing, remember, click like and subscribe to the Slide Rule Pass YouTube channel. We'll be back with the Welsh Wizard next week for more evermore, and Mark and I will be back for some pitch patter on Monday, so make sure you check that out. But for now, for me and the lads, it's time to go, and just remember to keep supporting that team we call United, and we'll catch you next time. Cheers, guys.
Ciao.
Ciao.